Good evening everybody and welcome to North East Lincolnshire Council's Cabinet Facebook Live. First of all, I do apologise for the fact we started a few minutes late. Unfortunately we had some technical issues, but we are here now, and I also have my 7 fellow Cabinet members with me tonight. I'm Councillor Philip Jackson. I'm the leader of the Council and I'm portfolio holder for Economy, Regeneration, Devolution and Skills. We'll go around clockwise. To my left we've got Councillor Stan Shreve. He's my deputy leader and he has the portfolio for health, well-being and adult social care. Good evening. Next we have Councillor Henry Hudson, portfolio holder for environment and net zero. On the other side of the table, Councillor Hayden Dawkins, portfolio holder for culture, heritage and the visitor economy. Next to him, Councillor Ron Shepherd, portfolio holder for safer and stronger communities. Then we've got Councillor Steve Harness, who is portfolio holder for finance, resources and assets. Then we've got Councillor Margaret Cracknell, portfolio holder for children and education. And last but not least, on my right, Councillor Stuart Swinburne, portfolio holder for housing, infrastructure and transport. Now, we have had a number of questions which have been submitted prior to this evening, so thank you very much for those of you who've sent questions in, and we will also be trying to answer questions that come through during the session. So we're here until 8 o'clock, so we've got plenty of time, and asking the questions tonight will be Michelle Lenoir, who is our Head of Communications. So I'll pass back to Michelle.
Thank you, Leader, and we'll start with the first question. Again, my apologies as well for the slight technical hitch tonight, but we're with you now. We'll go back to Councillor Jackson actually for the first question, which, as he rightly said, has been submitted. We are taking live questions and we encourage you to send them in to us. This one is from Dave Smith, who asks how much more of our funding and council tax will have to be diverted to prop up Freshney Place and its infrastructure. Thank you, Councillor Jackson.
Well, thank you, Dave Smith, for that question, and you'll be pleased to know that we're not funding Freshney Place or any of its associated infrastructure from council tax at all. We did, as a council, as you probably remember, buy Freshney Place back in 2022. We bought it as to enable us to use it as part of the regeneration of Grimsby Town Centre. It had been put on the market by the bank who owned it, who no longer wanted it. So we took the opportunity to purchase it, but the money that we used was actually a government grant to purchase Freshney Place to begin with. And the good news is that the rents we've been getting in from the various retail units within Freshney Place are more than covering the costs that we've got at the moment in terms of running the centre, which is good news. We have of course started a major regeneration scheme at the western end of Freshney Place, and we have had to use some external borrowing for that, although we've also had a substantial amount of additional government grant funding, some levelling up funding, and we are confident that the income that we will get from Freshney Place on an ongoing basis and the additional income we will get as a result of the regeneration scheme will more than cover the cost of the borrowing that we're having to make to regenerate that part of Freshney Place. I would remind people listening that this is part of a larger scheme for the regeneration of the town centre. We've got a number of exciting projects around the town centre, some of them run by the council, others by other people, like the Onside Youth Zone, for example. So there's a huge amount going on in the town centre at the moment, which will change the nature and the use of the town centre away from purely retail, attract a lot more people in, and we're confident with the new facilities and attractions that we will have in the town centre as part of the regeneration, that will increase footfall and again will bolster the retail sector in the town centre, which will always remain important.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jackson. I think we're still waiting for some live questions to come in, so please don't be shy and give your live questions to Cabinet members, please. There's another good question from Dave Smith, actually, and it's got several elements to it. Councillor Harness, I think, while we're waiting for live ones to come in, you could probably answer this one, but it is quite involved. So this question is, I recently read that a large tract of land owned by the council near the Stanborough interchange even has been sold to ABP for something like £20 million. Where is this money going to be spent? And then Mr Smith also asks, is it good for generations that the council appears to be selling off many of its assets, such as school playing fields, former council care homes and similar? Councillor Harness.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michelle. I would like to thank Mr Smith. They are very good questions and they require a comprehensive response. I also apologise for using notes, but there are quite a number of elements to the response. The council disposed of approximately 227.5 acres of strategic employment land to ABP for £20.5 million as part of the council's South Humber Industrial Investment Programme, called the SHIP Programme, which aims to unlock development potential and attract inward investment to the borough. The capital receipt is ring-fenced for capital expenditure and cannot be used to fund day-to-day operational costs in accordance with statutory accounting guidance. In terms of how we use the money, our current priorities for the use of the receipts include reducing the council's borrowing and associated financing costs, supporting strategic capital projects that promote economic growth, regeneration and environmental sustainability, investing in infrastructure and public assets, including improvements to council-owned buildings. This approach ensures that the proceeds from the sale are used to deliver long-term value for residents and business across the North East linkage. So moving to the second part of the question. In 2023, we took the decision to dispose of surplus assets and unused land. This brings in capital receipts and reduces the cost of managing and maintaining void properties. For example, the former council-owned Lindsay School site is being developed for good quality housing in our urban area. It is also worth noting that when the opportunity arises, we do purchase assets. As we've heard from the leader, Freshen Place falls into that category, and that's bringing in a healthy return. And also, we've got the House of Fraser building, which at some point in the future we hope will become part of the offer to shop for our shop. We do not manage school playing fields. Our secondary schools are now all academies, which are responsible for their grounds. Our green spaces are important, and we have 62 parks in our area. We do own and manage public green spaces, and what Mr Smith may be referring to is our partnership arrangements with sports specialists and organisations. For example, Clee Fields, it remains in council ownership, and when we won support to transform it with the new football pitches and changing facilities, we knew it would succeed if we allowed outside organisations to lease and manage it. YMCA Humber has that management responsibility. A similar arrangement has happened with the fantastic new tennis court. Just turning momentarily to the issue of care homes. There is the Beacon House site, which is being marketed by PPH, which was formerly leased to Navigo, who it is understood operated a care home and intermediate care unit. The property is vacant and surplus to the council's operational requirements. There is also the Eleanor Street site, which is also being marketed by PPH, which was also formerly leased to Navigo. It is understood that it provides support for living adults over 65 years of age and daycare centre services for individuals with learning disabilities or mental health conditions. Thirdly, regarding the former Lindsay Lower Field site, this is currently going through the planning process and the application has not yet been determined as there is an objection from Sportsman. But I hope Mr Smith answers the questions as you require. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harness. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, thank you. A very good answer from Councillor Harness there, but I think I'd just like to add that, you know, the council does own quite a substantial portfolio of assets, but undoubtedly we would be criticised if we were keeping buildings which we didn't need, because there's always an ongoing cost in terms of maintaining those buildings, ensuring that they're secure, maybe having to spend costs on energy if we've got to ensure they've got lighting, for example. So we would be criticised for not using council taxpayers' resources properly if we kept lots of buildings that we didn't need. So you know, we do look very carefully at our assets. We ensure we're using them efficiently, and where we don't need them anymore, we do sell them off to other organisations who can perhaps use them more effectively within the community than we can do. It's all about being an efficient and cost-effective local authority.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swinburne, we've got 2 questions coming on Corporation Road Bridge, and we have one submitted one. The submitted one from Farron Nurse says, could you kindly give us an update on progress or lack of progress that is being made with the repairs and reopening of Corporation Bridge? Samantha Brown, thank you Samantha, has brought a similar question. How confident is the council that a new contractor can be found for Corporation Bridge? Is there a timeline set for if a contractor can't be found? Then we have 2 more questions in connection with, has anybody been disciplined over the ongoing fiasco on Corporation Bridge? And Gary Saxton, when is somebody resigning for the Corporation Bridge failure? So Councillor Swinburne, do you want me to repeat any of that, or do you want to take them in turn?
I'll take them in the order first off from this one. Thank you very much for the question on Corporation Road Bridge, first off on Farroners, and I will try and answer that one. And it is quite a complex situation at the moment. Corporation Road Bridge, as we all know, is being well highlighted, is one of Grimsby's most important Grade 2 listed heritage assets, and we do have a responsibility to maintain it and bring it back to its original working order. There have been well publicised issues, and we have taken the appropriate and right action to respond. We are now well on the way to being able to announce the next step, to appoint a new contractor to finish the last section of the bridge, and once we have that in place we can give a clearer picture. But on my own behalf, obviously that was some questions that was raised early on, but relating to the actual, if we went to follow the actual full legal procedure of procurement exercises and tendering process, then we would be criticised, and then we could be challenged in a judicial review that if we didn't do the correct procedure, then other contractors could challenge us, and that would actually make the delay even longer for the reopening of the bridge. So it's actually worth pointing out that, and I will reiterate what I said previously many times now, we understand the frustration that this has caused, particularly to the importance of the bridge to local connectivity and businesses. But we are working urgently to appoint a new contractor, and this process involves ensuring all legal, which I just explained now, with any reviews that might be coming forward, any legal, safety and technical aspects are properly addressed so that the work does resume, it proceeds efficiently and without further disruption. Again, I would like to reiterate my apology for the disruption this has caused. While we cannot provide a precise restart date today, we are targeting late summer for works to recommence. And once the new contractor is in place and has completed their initial assessment, we will be in a better position to confirm a revised timeline for project completion. But it is the actual will of this local authority that we do get on with this job, and we do make sure that it's returned to its full working capacity that I'm sure people would expect from an iconic structure like Corporation Road Bridge. So I think the other questions, has anybody been sanctioned over this or what? But again, I think on that particular question that's come in, I don't know who the question was from, Michelle as such, but I do believe that this is obviously a legal procedure that we can't make any further comment at the moment because there are some litigation processes going through with the previous contractor and other people that's interested in it. So unfortunately I can't say whether anybody has been reprimanded over this at the moment, officers or past officers or whatever on that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Swinburne. We'll go to another live question. This one, I think, best placed for the leader on the LOR Prax issue from Mr. Day. What is happening in regards to helping Lindsay Oil Refinery stay open and helping us 1,000 workers? Is that something?
Yes, I think we all feel for those who are currently employed at Lindsay Oil Refinery. It's a very serious situation, and we're certainly working together across the Greater Lincolnshire footprint to try and do as much as we possibly can to lobby government to try and intervene to keep the Lindsay Oil Refinery open. Lindsay Oil Refinery is 10% of the UK's crude oil refining capacity, and if we want to ensure that we've got sustainable fuel resource in the UK, I think everybody locally agrees that we need to keep the oil refinery operational. We do know that the government is paying the workforce until the end of October, and all the local authority leaders, the members of Parliament and indeed the Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire were all asking government again to look at trying to find a buyer for Lindsay Oil Refinery. We were told that there was a potential buyer, but for whatever reason the receivers did not think that they were appropriate. We don't know the reason for that. We are also led to believe that there are a number of companies who are potentially interested in parts of the site, but in my view that's not really the way forward. What we need to be doing is continuing to try to work with government to find a buyer. In the meantime, behind the scenes, if that doesn't happen, we are working very closely with North Lincolnshire Council, because of course the Lindsay Oil Refinery actually geographically sits within North Lincolnshire, not within North East Lincolnshire. So we're working with North Lincolnshire Council, we are working with government agencies, and we're working with various training providers to ensure that training opportunities are put in place to be able to ensure that any staff made redundant from Lindsay Oil Refinery have other opportunities, particularly in the green energy sector. But as I say, my view is we really need to keep the pressure on government to try and keep the refinery open, and everyone has my assurance that I'm playing my part in trying to achieve that.
Thank you, Leader. We do have another one on LOR, but you may or may not want to add to it about are we offering support for LOR workers and supporting businesses that are affected by this? You probably answered that in your question.
Well, I will just add about, it's also about the supply chain as well, because of course it's not just about the 450 or so people who are employed at Lindsay Oil itself. There's a massive supply chain behind Lindsay Oil, providing all sorts of support services, and you know, we're not entirely sure what effect the loss of the oil refinery would have on all the supply chain organisations, but it would be very significant, and it would be across a wide geographical footprint in Lincolnshire. So again, you know, to ensure the viability, continued viability of supply chain companies, we do need to try and keep the refinery open, because I very much doubt government support is going to extend down to all the supply chain companies who may be affected.
Thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Swinburne, we've just had another one in about Corporation Road Bridge. Why was the yearly maintenance not taken place so as not to allow it to get into a state of disrepair in the first place? That was from a Mr Saxton.
Well, thank you very much for that question. Previously, it was the previous administration, to be fair, who failed to put in a maintenance programme to actually cover that from when they did another refurbishment or a minor refurbishment to the one that we're offering now. So, unfortunately, I can't answer why they didn't put in a project in place that would cover any maintenance and ongoing checks on the bridge itself. But this is why it's taken us so long now, because we've found so many problems with the bridge, an 100-year-old structure, that we're having to go through a full procurement exercise with any prospective contractors. But we are confident that we have found all the main issues with the bridge now. The main issue was on span 4, which was the lifting mechanism, but we do believe we've got the final answer to that now. And as I have previously said, once the new contractor is in place, then we will be able to make further announcements as to how we're progressing with it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Swinburne. We'll go over to Keith. Oh, I do apologise, Councillor.
Thank you. I don't think Stuart emphasised that enough. This problem wouldn't now be our problem if previous administrations had done their job properly. If had they had a proper programme of maintenance, we wouldn't be in this position now. It's unfortunate that it's come to this, but we're the ones that have picked it up and are fixing it, so it's going to be fit for purpose for another 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. Keep your microphone on. We're flipping over to Cleethorpes now and the boating lake, and Councillor Dawkins, with his portfolio holder for tourism, might want to add on to this one. We've got a question from Diane Roberts. The area around the boating lake needs maintenance and updating. Concrete is broken, the bandstand unused, and the grass in a poor state, and the sound garden neglected. Is there going to be any further improvements in that area, please?
Thank you very much for the question. That sounds like there is no current maintenance, but that's just simply not true. At the moment, our teams are down there every single day clearing up goose muck. And for those of you that don't know, a goose produces 2 pounds of droppings every single day. I'm using droppings to be polite. If you see them, they're not droppings, they're the size of a small dog. So that keeps our teams really busy. So to say we're not doing anything is unfair. Now, there is room for improvement, I'll give you that. And so we have applied to the National Lottery Fund for funding to improve the boating lake, but it's got to be working with the wildlife. The easy option is to scare all the wildlife away, and people don't want that. So we've got to find a way of keeping the wildlife, probably rewilding areas, working so that the public can still have access, but making it better for everybody. And it's got to be in a way that it is self-sufficient. We can't keep having to go in there and clear it every day. So there is work going on. We've already had £250,000 to investigate it and to employ a coastal ranger who's down there. A lot of people will now be aware of him and seeing him. I'm expecting big things for the boating lake in the next 2 or 3 years, but we've just got to get the funding in place first. Thank you.
Councillor Dawkins, I don't know whether you want to add anything about Regen and Cleethorpes in general, or add to Councillor.
Yeah, I mean, Henry's answered most of that, to be fair. The boating lake is probably the last bit that we need to do, excluding North Brom. But it's a big project. It's not a small project, it's a big project. At this moment in time, though, it's still well used, and that's important as well. It's not like a derelict bit of land that's been fenced off. It's well used on a daily basis, and I completely support Councillor Hudson.
Thank you very much. Go back to Grimsby Town Centre now, one of the riverheads, so this may be one for the leader, although it may be a bit of environment as well. The riverhead, the paving stones have been taken up again in the riverhead and stones taken away, leaving mud everywhere now. When will the works finally end and the barriers be taken away?
Yes, thank you for that question. I mean, we have had delays with Riverhead Square. The most recent one has been trying to get the power installed by Northern Power Grid. All businesses, all local authorities at the moment are having problems with getting power installed to new sites, and of course we need power on the site because it's we're going to be using it for events in the future. We've got to have that power available for various site users, and I think that has been the most recent work that's been done within Riverhead Square. I believe that work has now just been completed and the barrier should be coming down any time. There has been some further planting going on within the planting areas within Riverhead Square, and that's possibly what the question is referring to. But once we have all that planting in place, the project will then be complete.
Thank you. Keeping you busy tonight, Councillor Jackson. We've got another question from Mr Nolan about the Community Diagnostic Centre in Freshney Place. Are you confident the additional footfall of between 150,000 and 180,000 expected will happen? And is the footfall back in Freshney Place to pre-COVID levels?
Right, well, we're as confident as we can be that the footfall will increase as a result of the opening of the Community Diagnostic Centre. The NHS are telling us that they will be making around about 120,000 appointments there each year for people to come in for tests. So we do know these people will be coming into Freshney Place. In most cases, they will probably bring somebody with them, and whilst not all those people will use facilities in Freshney Place, I'm sure quite a few of them will. So yes, there will be an increase in footfall as a result. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the second part of the question.
It was the pre-COVID levels of Freshney Place. I'm not sure.
Right, to be honest, I'm not sure. We'll make sure that information is made available to you. I'm not sure if we're back up to pre-COVID levels of footfall in Freshney Place yet, but footfall has been increasing on a year-on-year basis over the past 2 or 3 years since the council purchased Freshney Place. And what you do have to realise, of course, is that quite a number of the retail units at the western end of Freshney Place were taken out of use because they are currently part of the major regeneration scheme in that part of the shopping centre, which is going to be bringing about a new multi-screen cinema, further leisure facilities, more food and beverage outlets and a new market hall. So once we get all that open, which will be in 2027, again that will be a huge boost to footfall in Freshney Place and in the town centre in general. It's part of our aim of moving the town centre away from full reliance on retail to ensuring that we've got a whole range of other activities going on in the town centre and making it a much more family-friendly and lively environment.
Thank you very much. I do believe I've got Councillor Shreve and Councillor Swinburne who'd like to come in. Yes. Councillor Shreve, Deputy Leader, but also portfolio holder responsibilities for adult social care and public health. So and CDC, I guess, is what you want to talk about.
It is, yeah. I've just got a postscript on Community Diagnostic Centre. As you're probably aware, it's been a phased opening. So in the early days of the opening, it was relatively quiet. But the diagnostic side of it will definitely achieve the footfall that's been forecast. Phase 2, which is the ophthalmology department, which indeed Diana Princess of Wales was the most congested clinic, that has now moved wholesale into the Community Diagnostic Centre from last week. So the numbers will surpass the 150,000 in the original forecast by a wide margin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that answers another question that's come in from Andrew Davis about the footfall for the CDC, so I think we've answered that one. Councillor Swinburne, you want to come in on this issue as well?
Yeah, thanks very much. Just on a personal thing, actually, to show that the footfall is increasing and how busy it is in the Community Diagnostic Centre. I was only in there this afternoon myself with my wife for an appointment, and how busy it is, and the staff were encouraged by the amount of footfall that it is generating around there, especially in the coffee shops and the other shops as well around there. So it is proving that people are visiting other areas of Freshney Place, not but to just Community Diagnostic Centre. But I do believe that particular building, the Community Diagnostic Centre, is an asset that is very worthy of what we're doing, and it is relieving the pressure on Grimsby Diana of Wales Principal Hospital. So, you know, I think it's a thing that we should be promoting and encouraging people to use it, and I know that it is being used very well at the moment.
Thank you very much for that. We've got quite a lot of live questions coming in now, so I'll try and mix them. This is one from Jordan Corrine, I think that's how you pronounce it, and I think it refers to last week or the week before's full council meeting. Why wasn't Oliver Freeston's bid to prioritise homeless veterans for housing ahead of others backed by local councillors? Our veterans deserve our support. I'm not sure who wants to take that one. I'm guessing the leader. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I believe Councillor Freeston's proposal was about was around ensuring we gave preference to UK residents over immigrants for housing, and he wanted to move that as an amendment. The reason no one supported him was because it wasn't really relevant to the debate we were having. The debate we were having was about how we were going to ensure that we gave the best support to our veterans. The Labour group were moving that we should employ another member of staff to do that. The rest of the council was unconvinced that that was the way forward because they hadn't actually made the case for another member of staff, and eventually an amendment which I proposed was the one that was agreed, which was that we would do a full review of the services that we currently offer to veterans before we decide on the best way to move forward and improve those services. And I think a more relevant question to Councillor Freeston actually would be, as a Reform councillor, of course, he's committed to major cuts in spending of local authorities. So I would question why he wasn't actually challenging the Labour group's proposal to employ another member of staff at the council, which would of course meant additional cost for the council taxpayer.
Oh, sorry about that, just had problems with my microphone. I think Councillor Hudson would like to come in on that one.
Thank you, Michelle. We've got to remember that Councillor Freeston is publicity hungry at the moment, and he'll say anything to get his face on GB News. So it's a sentiment I totally agree with and back him completely, but it wasn't the right time and place for what he was proposing. Thank you.
There's another question about full council, actually, questioning the prayers before council meetings and the possible cancellation of them. I don't know if any, again, Leader?
Yes, thank you. I think actually, although I'm not a particularly religious person, I do actually support prayers at the start of full councils. I think it gives us an opportunity to be quiet for a few minutes and think about what we might be doing over the next 2 or 3 hours. Having said that, whether or not we have prayers at the start of the meeting is the decision of whoever is the mayor at the time. If she's decided that she doesn't want them, well then they don't happen. That doesn't mean it won't happen again in future years.
Oh, Councillor Swinburne would like to come in on this one?
Yes, thanks very much on that. As a past mayor of this authority, and I'm a bit dubious about how this is going on at the moment, and I did have my own mayor's chaplain. I did have prayers before his council meeting, and I think it's only right that that is part of our civic duty to actually uphold our civic pride within this council. But as the leader has already said, that it is down to the mayor of the day and how she wants to organise and run things, and so it's entirely up to her. But me personally, I would like to have seen the mayor have prayers before a meeting, and it just show our support for the community.
Thank you very much. Another one from Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, just a quick one, and just let's remember this is only for the term of this mayor. A new mayor might have a completely different view, and we could be doing prayers again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got a lot of different questions coming in tonight. We've got one from Yvonne Holmes, which isn't really for an answer, but we will find out. I would think Martin Ragway and Greenfinch Drive, I'm not sure where that is actually area, needs a cutting back more often, and could that be looked into, please? So that's probably an environment question, Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, if you can pass those details on to me. I mean, we cut everything on a rota, so it will be done. I'm surprised it's been so dry this year. Nothing's grown. But yeah, send me the details and we'll get it looked at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another one possibly for the leader. I think what is happening to the Riverhead now, it has been sold. I am thinking that this John Mills is talking about the units that are near the barge.
Yes, thank you for that question. I mean, we do know they've been sold, but I don't think we're entirely sure at the moment who's bought them, and we don't know what use they're being put to. For me, the fact that they've been purchased actually is encouraging. It shows that there is increased interest in our town centre as companies and organisations see that we are making major strides with regeneration in the town centre, and that we're serious about making Grimsby town centre more vibrant. And we are, generally speaking, seeing a lot more interest from various companies in potentially moving into Grimsby town centre. And of course, it's not until these companies see things happening on the ground that they have the confidence to move forward and start to show interest in the town centre. But that is increasingly happening now.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try and string these two together for Councillor Hudson, because one's just come in live and we had one earlier. So one from a Mr. Childs. What is the situation? Oh, my machine's just popped up. There we go. What is the situation with road cleaning? We have a road sweeper and weed quad bike come down our road a couple of times a year. But due to parked cars, they just drive down the centre of the road and don't stop. The weed operator does not get off his quad bike. Would it be better to have days of action per road so cars can be moved, streets cleaned, weeded, and any paving-road repairs can be done correctly and not visited time and time again? So you can answer that one, and then it'll give me time to read the other one.
Yeah, I'll go for that one, and that is really, really important. And we had a question of full council on a similar vein to that, and I put that point forward. I suggested that ward councillors were alerted, because we're currently not, to when the road sweepers were in our ward. Same thing happens in my village. The road sweeper comes twice a year, and if somebody's parked and gone for a walk, there are footpaths around me, that bit of road doesn't get cleaned. So that's something that was discussed at a previous council meeting. We're currently looking at it at a cabinet working group, how we take the street scene forward, and that's certainly something that I'll be looking at. People need to know when the sweepers are coming, and then they can move their vehicles accordingly. Good idea, I fully support it. Thank you.
We'll make sure that one gets passed to you, Councillor Hudson. The other one was from a Mr. Wright in connection with herbicide spraying. I know this is something being involved with. Please could the council cease its practice around mature trees? The area around the base of these mature trees should be very important to all-year habitat for foraging songbirds and other wildlife. Applying Roundup makes it sterile land. Each tree supports its own community of other creatures and wildflowers, so why destroy it, especially if the growth poses no visibility hazard for passing traffic? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. And that is an interesting one again, because whereas Mr. Wright might be quite happy to see weeds growing around trees, most of my complaints are from people that don't want to see weeds growing around trees, or anywhere in fact. So we're currently looking at our use of herbicides, and we are having we're looking for trial areas where no spraying can take place, or residents can take care of their own weeds. Now, the process for that is you need to contact your ward councillor and suggest your street in agreement with your neighbours, propose what kind of trial you would like, and if it's successful, if people want it, we're happy to leave that. It will save us a fortune. But I suspect the majority won't like it. They'll see the mess, and we'll go back to spraying. Now, let's not forget, herbicides are blamed for so many ills. It's a tiny little bit of habitat at the bottom of a tree. When you, and he's talking about foraging birds, the RSPB suggests that cats kill 50 million to 100 million songbirds every single year. That's what's killing your songbirds, not herbicides. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got one here for Councillor Shepherd, I think, a live one come in. I would like to know how the shops on Freeman Street are allowed to continue to stay open after countless raids. I think there was one last week or the week before that was well publicised. Surely selling counterfeit cigarettes and vapes, etc. are criminal activities and against licensing laws. Don't even get me started on the tax side of things, says Ms Jennings. I'd like to answer that, Councillor Shepherd.
Thank you, Mr Jennings. You're absolutely right. I attended the raids in and around the Freeman Street area. I was amazed to find what products were available and where they'd hidden them, what lengths they go to hide them, including booby traps. This is organised crime, national organised crime. This isn't just some local chap or lady who set up. This is organised crime on a global almost basis. The raid that we did on the morning, that same shop was open again in the afternoon. I did call for stronger sentences from the magistrates, and of course some of these people have been prosecuted 1 up to 11 times before. It's about time that we reviewed that and looked at the judicial system and asked for stiffer sentences. And that's something that I've put in place, along with further action, further days of action. And you'll see that taking place in and around, not just the Freeman Street area, but across the borough as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shepherd. We have one from Mr Davies about the library. Why did you allow the transfer of 3.7 million from the library to be then used to prop up Freshney Place without the agreement and authorisation of the Grimsby MP Melanie On? This authorisation was required by the Towns Fund. I'm not sure if Councillor Dawkins or the leader.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, the requirement was that the Great Grimsby Board had to be in support of transferring the money, which it was. Of course, individual members of the board may or may not agree with that happening, but obviously it's a majority decision that prevails in that situation. I just think a little bit of background is probably needed with regard to that money. That money was never earmarked for the repair or maintenance of the Central Library building in general. It was part of a Towns Fund project that we put together back in the early 2020s with the potential of converting the upper floors of the Central Library into a green training hub to support the new emerging green industries within the area. That required partnership with at least one local training provider, and those training providers, the agenda has now moved forward. They've made other arrangements in terms of providing training facilities, and we were unable to secure a partner for the conversion of the two upper floors to a green training hub. We did agree with the Great Grimsby Board, and we also agreed with the relevant government department. They were also involved in the decision that we could transfer that money, that potential green hub money, into the Freshney Place project, which obviously has meant that we haven't had to borrow quite as much money to progress that. But as I say, it was never there to provide any maintenance or repair work on the main fabric of the library itself, and couldn't have been used for that. It was not identified. It was identified for aims to promote the sort of things we're doing in the town centre to increase footfall generally.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jackson. One possibly for Councillor Dawkins here is a question from Ms Morris, Jackie Morris, about the future of Welland Galleries. Saying it will become another Eleanor Street. Is there nothing that can be done for bringing this back into community use? That might be a more general question, but...
Yeah, it's more sort of probably Councillor Harness, to be fair, with it being an asset issue, but yeah, anything so it doesn't, you know, it is a valuable property, but I think there's probably some more news on that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Dawkins. Yes, there is an interest that is progressing, and at this moment in time, I cannot reveal the interest or the monies that are involved, but it's looking very favourable at this moment.
It's good to hear. Thank you, Councillor Harness. We go back to our streets, Councillor Shepherd. Michelle Woodhouse, are we going to have more police patrols uptown? So I think that maybe is probably top town. The kids there last week, there was about 30 of them at one point. They hit two people shouting at other people and went on the building site. Sometimes you don't want to go into town because of the trouble that's there. I know Councillor Shepherd has been involved in things.
Thank you for the question. One of the asks from North East Lincolnshire Council is that we have a stronger police presence in and around our town centres. As part of the development in and around the town centre, we're looking at a new police hub, which will give us increased footfall of police officers in the town centre. I know that the police have altered their shift system and have allocated officers specifically for working in the town centre. We've had several days of action with them where we've been able to ascertain some of the issues regarding antisocial behaviour. It is something that I'll take forward with the police as part of the ongoing development of the town centre, and it's something that will pay dividends. We've seen a huge increase in the number of arrests that have been made for a variety of offences in and around the town centre, but visible policing is absolutely necessary in that particular case.
I don't know whether Councillor Cracknell might want to say anything about activities for children to prevent them from doing this. We've got the new on-side building, haven't we, coming onto line at the end of the year?
Yes, indeed we have. The council commission lots of activities, particularly during the holiday period for children and families. Certainly in the press very recently we've seen the announcement Every Family Hub has activity days, and we had several hundred people at the first activity. That's spread out across the whole of North East Lincolnshire, so we're not just talking about Grimsby, Cleethorpes, we're talking about the villages as well. So it's incredibly important. And yes, of course, youth activities, Divergence, all sorts of activities put on not just by the local authority, but by lots of other organisations, including charitable, voluntary sector, as well as, for example, the police, all play a part in ensuring that there's positivity for our children and young people.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to give a plug for our Council's Community Spotlight column on our website, actually, because that has an updated list of all the activities over the summer holidays. So if anybody wants anything on that, go on to the Community Spotlight section of the Council's website. Thank you. Councillor Jackson?
Yes, I think it's also worth mentioning in terms of facilities for young people in the town centre that by the end of the year, the Horizon on-site youth zone will be open. People will have seen that this is occupying the old West Havens maltings on the River Freshney, which has been a Grade 2 listed building, been empty for a best part of a generation, and there's been a huge amount of money invested in it, government grant funding, some local authority money, a lot of money, and a lot of charitable funding being invested into what will be a fantastic facility for young people, not only in the town centre but from across the whole of North East Lincolnshire. And again, it's going to be something that diversifies the use of the town centre and attracts much more footfall into the town centre generally. So that's going to be really exciting new development in the next few months for Grimsby Town Centre.
It's also part of a partnership as well, so it isn't just being activities being delivered from there. The work has already been undertaken to work with other parts of our community to ensure that the reach is as broad as it possibly can. So it isn't working in isolation, it's working across the borough.
Thank you very much. We've got a question on dog fouling, which is sometimes a popular one, isn't it? I'm not sure whether this is Councillor Hudson or Councillor Shepherd, or can you tell me what you're doing about dog fouling? It seems to be getting worse, despite us being told that it's getting better. That's from a Glynis Gray.
Thank you, thanks for the question. Dog fouling is an issue. It's an issue that blights across the whole of the borough. And actually taking enforcement action against dog fouling is extremely difficult. Enforcement officers have to witness those individuals whose dogs defecate and then walk away with no attempt to clean it up. That's where the offence is committed. But equally, not having the ability to clean up is also an offence. So we have enforcement officers who are out on what's called a patrol matrix, where they don't just cover the town centres or the leafy suburbs, they also cover out to Immingham and the Wolds and some of the rural villages as well. It's a big area to cover, and if we were really to have sufficient officers, it would be a huge cost to this organisation, and that is something that we have to balance out. Those individuals who do get fined for dog fouling normally pay their fine. Those who don't are taken to court through the magistrate's court, and we're seeing some very stiff sentences passed out, fines passed out to those individuals. But it's on our agenda. It's what you asked for, stronger enforcement. It's something that we will endeavour to strive to deliver.
And Councillor Hudson?
Thank you. Yes, I'd just like to add to that. I had to step into Councillor Shepherd's shoes just recently while he was away. And I didn't know, as he pointed out, that you actually get fined for not having the means to pick up after your dog. So that's led to the creation of the poo bag challenge, is it? Poo bag something like that. And various businesses are now stocking poo bags that we, the council, are providing for free. So if you find yourself in that situation, you've used your bags, you can pop in, make a list of these businesses, find out where they are and go and get a new bag. Let's keep the streets clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. And I think possibly another one for you about the trees on St Peter's Avenue in Cleethorpes. This particular person, Mr Holt, I'm sure some people wouldn't agree, remove all the overgrown trees in St Peter's Avenue. The pavement is a total disgrace and incredibly dangerous.
Yes, so we have a tree policy which the council works to, and in that we agreed that we wouldn't take down or damage a tree unless it was for safety reasons. So, and it's one of those situations again where a bit like the spraying. Some people want them all chopping down, some people want them leaving alone. So we've committed, as part of our environmental credentials, to keep healthy trees, to not do anything unless it's absolutely necessary. So if it's blocking a sign, or if it's got a damaged limb, we'll deal with it. But if it's a healthy tree and it's not a danger, unfortunately, a resident's going to have to live with it. Thank you.
Councillor Swinburne.
Yeah, thank you. Just on the same question, actually, the work that's going on at the moment down St Peter's Avenue is not to remove the trees. It's actually we're doing some assessment work on the root damage. As you've always spoken or said there in the question about the damage to the footpaths. Yes. So we are looking at what we can do, whether we can do anything with the roots to make it better for the footpath users as well. But it's not to actually take the trees down at the moment. It's just assessing the situation around them.
And funnily enough, only this morning, as I was in St Peter's Avenue, a resident approached me because clearly there are areas of paving on the pavement of St Peter's Avenue that are fundamentally probably quite dangerous and certainly a trip hazard. So I certainly welcome the assessment that's taking place. So I understand both sides of the argument, but I think when it's a real danger for pedestrians, we have to have a common sense attitude really, whilst appreciating the fact that green trees add a certain ambience to our avenues.
And I think that's the point you were making, Councillor Hudson, about unless there is a danger. So.
Absolutely right.
Okay, we have another one now for, I think it's probably Councillor Hudson again. I thought it might be Councillor Shepherd. We're keeping you busy tonight, from a Jackie Morris. How do we get grass verges on the Nunsthorpe made into wildflower flower beds? That was hard to say, it was 2 flowers. And also, how do we get more trees now the scheme is finished? So I think she's referring to the giveaway tree scheme that we had, I think, last year, didn't we? I don't know if there's any point, or you want to take that up, Councillor Hudson?
Yeah, I honestly don't know the answer to that at the moment. If there's a funding pot, we take it, and at that point we will do those tree works. As for meadows, again, people, does she just want that? Does everybody want it? We've tried growing wildflowers before, and often all you get is weeds. The wildflowers struggling, you get the weeds. So is it better to keep maintaining the verges and keep them tidy? It's something I could take away and look at if there's an appetite. A bit like the spraying, if there's an appetite for it, we could have a look at it. Why not? Thank you.
We'll make sure we get that comment passed over to you, Councillor Hudson. And Councillor Shepherd, I think, wants to come in at this point.
Yeah, thank you. What we've done in Scartho Ward is that we have ward funding, and working with Scartho in Bloom, we've looked at several areas around the village where we're going to plant up the grassed areas on the side of the footpaths with wildflowers. We've spoken with Highways, we've spoken with Neighbourhood Services. They're very much in agreement. So I will direct your listener to the ward councillors in South Ward. They have a £7,500 funding pot, ward funding pot, which they can allocate money to those kind of projects through groups such as In Bloom. So it's the direction that we've taken in Scaffer. My advice to them is to do the same in South Ward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another one for Councillor Hudson. We have a lot of environmental questions tonight, which is good to see. I'm not sure whether you know about this, but Sarah Jane Giles has said, can anything be done for the ducks in Ainsley Park when the pond repeatedly dries up?
Crikey, I know nothing about Ainsley Park, really sorry about that. If it was the boating lake, we have a borehole, we can top it up. Same in People's Park, but I really don't know about that. Again, I can ask the question, I don't know what feeds that pond, really sorry.
We will get that question to Councillor Hudson to do some research, and we will get back to you, as we will with all of these questions. Another one on the bridge for Councillor Swinburne. Are you putting in a maintenance programme for Corporation Bridge once completed?
Yes. I mean, it's a small grant, but yes, I mean, we will do. We don't want to be in the same position as we were previous to taking on this role now of getting this bridge back to work in order. And as I did mention before, if this had been done previously, a proper programme in place for regular maintenance, we wouldn't be in the situation we are now. So the answer, yes, we will be taking on a maintenance programme.
Thank you very much. We have a couple of questions in connection with next year's May elections, saying if Reform do well, or if there's a hung council, how would that work? How does it work as a hung council, or a change in, I don't know whether the leader has any views on that one?
Yeah, yes, unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball with regard to these sort of things. They say a week is a long time in politics, certainly 9 months is an age, and a lot can happen between now and next May's elections. I mean, it's really impossible to say exactly what the political makeup of the council will be after the elections next May. So I think we just have to really watch this space and decide from there. If we're in a position where no group has overall control of the council, obviously some arrangement has to be made between different groups on the council to ensure that we elect a leader and a cabinet, and that the council is able to operate. But we'll have to wait and see.
Thank you very much. Another one in connection with the transfer of the Equans contract from a Mr Davies. How much does it cost the taxpayers annually with the transfer from Equans employees into the local government pension scheme? She said it's very generous.
To be honest, I don't actually have that figure. I think we'd have to get back to you on that. I mean, clearly there is a cost associated with that, but overall, with regard to the transfer of services back in from Equans to the council, we are currently operating services on the same budget as we were previously paying to Equans.
Maybe add to that. Of course, when the employees were part of the Equans team, they were paid for as part of the service contract, which would have included their pension. So I'd be very surprised, personally, if there's any incremental cost as a result of people transferring back in. Thank you.
As I said earlier, we will take these questions away and get them to the relevant portfolio holders, because it's now 7:30 and we have got a lot of questions coming in, so that's good. So some of those ones can be answered later, and we will do so. Moving on, Councillor Jackson, maybe you want to explain the library situation a little bit more clearly, because somebody is saying the transfer did require permission from the area's MPs, and the funding could have been used for critical repairs to the library. They're saying it was specifically allocated to the library, so I don't know if you just want to make that clear again.
Yeah, I mean, this has been explained quite a number of times in public, both verbally and also in writing. The money was allocated to the library, but it was not allocated for the library as such, the existing library. It was allocated to bring back into use the two currently unused upper floors of the library as a green training hub. And as I explained a little bit earlier on, that project never came to fruition, so we did get the necessary permissions to enable the money to be transferred to other town centre projects, which in this particular case was to the Fresh Neat Place scheme.
Thank you very much. Complete change of subject now, and a question that was submitted actually for Councillor Swinburne, I believe, from Ms Johnson. I'm particularly interested in the Council's target for housing migrants. The Council reserving rented houses across central Grimsby. Migrant housing imposed on neighbourhoods without any care, consultation or consideration for residents. I also thought there was a limit to the number of HMOs on a block. Councillor Swinburne.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, and it's quite an interesting question, and one that I've done my own research on a lot of this as well, apart from some of the statutory answers that I've had given to me. But the council really do not have a duty to accommodate all those at risk at homelessness. but we do have a duty to actually variety of accommodation across the borough for this use. There are additional schemes to assist all applicants to access accommodation on a longer term basis, and the Home Office procures accommodation for migrants awaiting asylum decisions across the borough. Just on my own part, as I say, I did a little bit more research of my own looking into this, and to find out just why migrant housing is imposed without consultation. Housing for asylum seekers is largely handled by private landlords, and these are working under contracts with the Home Office, not directly by local councils. And this limits the local authority control and often leads to a lack of public consultation. And the council, like North East Lincolnshire, may only be informed after placements have been made. So, which contributes to the local frustration and my own frustration in the way that this is procured. But as I mentioned early on there, the schemes are all resettlement and asylum schemes are coordinated by the Home Office, which places asylum seekers and refugees across the UK, often in private rental properties. And some properties, often in areas like central Grimsby, may be used for this purpose. But there is no evidence, I emphasise, there is no evidence that the council is reserving entire blocks or areas specifically for migrants. Just on another part of your question, actually, on the houses of multiple occupation, HMOs. Yes, nationally, any property with 5 or more unrelated people sharing amenities, kitchen, bathroom, etc., do require an MOTAR licence. Locally, North East Lincolnshire Council is the provider of those licences. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got half an hour left, and we've actually had a very nice comment from Yvonne Holmes, who says, I've not seen these meetings online previously, I think it's great. So we want Yvonne Holmes to actually spread the word on these. Then we've got one from Mr. Martin Lewis Sanford. Signs needed on the Freshney Parkway, the local nature reserve. How come this is being ignored? I'm not sure if that's something for Councillor Hudson that he wants to take up and investigate, or...
I think Councillor Swinburne's got an answer for that.
Yeah, as the previous portfolio leader for environment, and I'm sure that Mr. Sanford already knows the answer to this one, because I worked closely with him while he was a councillor. And so, we can understand what he is, but there has not been any neglect or revoke for that particular habitat around that area. So I think he's misinformed of what is actually happening with it, but I'm sure that Councillor Hudson will make some further inquiries with the street scene people to find out just what work is being done on there.
Thank you very much for that. St Peter's Avenue trees have sparked a bit of debate. Somebody said, why not pedestrianise St Peter's Avenue? You could put seats around and make the trees to make it a social hub. Somebody else, Mr Holt, remembers the trees being installed in the mid-70s, so we've got, as we say, we have got some work underway on that to understand the damage and what's needed, so that will be coming forward. Councillor Jackson, I think this is one for you, because we've got any information on the mega council plan, and I think Mr Mills is referring to local government reorganisation. I think it's the latest.
Yes, thank you. The local government reorganisation situation is a fairly fast-moving one. And I think, as I've said before, one that is being very much directed by central government, but their advice on the sort of direction which they want to move tends to keep varying. But basically, within the greater Lincolnshire footprint, the 3 upper tier councils are starting to coalesce around a common agenda, which will be for the Lincolnshire County Council area, which currently is 2-tier. It has a county council and district councils. For that potentially to become one new unitary council, which will manage all the services, and for North and North East Lincolnshire, at least for the time being, to remain as they are. As you know, the two authorities in the northern part of the county are already unitary councils, so we manage all our own services, and we don't actually believe that we would save a significant amount of money by those 2 councils merging, whereas clearly there is a significant amount of duplication within the Lincolnshire County Council footprint, with them having 2 tiers of local government. And I think the current government's main target is to see the end of the two-tier system, and because North and North East Lincolnshire are two relatively small unitary authorities which are immediately adjacent to the Lincolnshire County Council area, we've sort of got sucked into the whole process. But I think we can put a very strong argument for the progress that we've made as a local authority and the efficiencies that we have as a council, and that we would like to remain within our present boundaries. Of course, the danger of having a much larger unitary authority which takes in the whole of the south bank of the Humber is that it will become more remote from residents, and I think the view of both of the administrations in those two unitary authorities is that we would like to see our current boundaries remain the same. We will of course continue to work closely with other councils across the whole of the Greater Lincolnshire footprint, and of course we are now part of a male combined authority across the whole of Lincolnshire, which again encourages to work together more closely where we are able and willing to do so.
Thank you. And Mr Mills has come in, leader, saying, will Grimsby play second to Scunthorpe?
Grimsby will never play second to Scunthorpe, I can assure you of that.
Thank you very much. Interesting question from, sorry, I've just lost that one because it's flipped up. Let me just, it's worth looking at. From a Mr Smith. Why don't you reduce house building in the small villages and force house builders to build more in the central and rundown Grimsby areas? Which, when we look at housing targets in the local plan, is a very interesting question. So there might be several of you that have your views on this one. So I'll start with leader.
Yes, I mean that's a very good question. Certainly, as someone who represents Walt from one of the rural wards within North East Lincolnshire, I would very much like to see more housing being built in the town centre rather than in the so-called leafy suburbs. And of course, we often don't have the infrastructure in the rural villages to be able to support the levels of increased housing that we're seeing. Unfortunately, we have had much higher housing targets imposed in the last year by the new Labour government. We were only required to build just over 200 new homes per year up until last year. Our new target is 618 per year, so nearly 3 times as many. So this, as you can imagine, this is putting a lot of pressure on housing sites across the whole of the borough, and makes it increasingly difficult to be able to control where we are able to build housing. We do have a local development plan which clearly sets out the areas where we want to build housing and where we'll give planning consent for housing. But unfortunately, because of the increased housing number target, we are going to have to look at additional housing sites over and above those. We did have a debate about this at full council the week before last, and it was unanimously agreed across all the parties on the council, including the Labour group, that we should write to government and try and engage them in discussions about how we can reduce our housing target numbers down to a more manageable figure. And of course, if we have a smaller housing target, that will enable us to direct more housing to brownfield sites in the town centre, which are the ones that we want to see redeveloped. We want to try and bring more people back into Grimsby town centre and into Cleethorpes for that matter, and so that we're seeing the renaissance of our town centres.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Swinburne.
Yeah, just to add on to what the leader has just been saying there, it has been a concern to us when we've been discussing about the local plan, and that's been a big issue for us when we've had the debate on the housing allocation that the government have imposed on us. So it isn't realistic to actually be able to meet those targets, and that's why, as the leader has just said, we raised a notice of motion at the last full council meeting asking the government to reassess our situation, which, you know, that's what we are doing, we're writing to them. But don't forget, we are trying to encourage more building into the town centres, and especially with the one that's now about to take place on the side of the Freshney there in town for more town centre development. There are 130 houses planned to go on there, and we are in an imminent situation where the builders will be on site to actually start the development on there. So there's a lot of encouraging things happening in the borough at the moment, and as we say, actions speak louder than words within this authority, and you are now starting to see the development that is actually taking place, not just with housing, but all the infrastructure and the regeneration of the area.
Thank you. We've got two people I think who want to come in. We've got, I don't know who was first, so there's Councillor Dawkins and Councillor Harness.
I'll go first. This is a personal view, obviously, because it's nothing to do with my portfolio, but you know, everyone's got an opinion, and my opinion is, I think the government are not looking at the bigger picture. 600 houses a year in this area is way too much. On the previous targets, we've still got properties that are being built that are empty. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous where they put the situation they put on us. And you know, people need to remember that if they say we've got to build 618 a year, then it's 618 that we've got to strive towards. And if we don't, then obviously that opens up the planning portal for everybody to build on every bit of grass except on roundabouts. So.
Councillor Harness.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, as a ward council for Humberston and New Waltham, like my two colleagues here, Councillor Street and Councillor Dawkins, I think we're fully aware how difficult it is to defend planning applications when you haven't got a local plan, and then following on from that, you can't demonstrate housing numbers. So in Humberston and New Waltham, you lose count of how many big developments have gone through, and they've gone through on the nod of a planning inspector, most of them. We lost control, no doubt about it. We then got to a situation where we had a reasonable housing number target, and then now that's gone from us. And the fear is that we're going to go back to the situation where we're going to lose greenfields in Humberston and New Waltham again. That's my fear. Obviously, we all are aware that we have to build houses. We have to continue improving the council tax base. We accept all that, but it'd be nice to have a little bit more control and decision making of where we build those houses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That does answer a question actually from Scott Fitch, who followed on from the first question. Why does the council constantly act against the public wishes regarding housing and building in the villages? How far do they plan to go? Are we moving everyone out of town and into the surrounding villages? I think you've touched on the planning issue, Councillor Harness, but maybe worth stressing that.
Yeah, can I just touch on one more point? I think one thing we're all proud of in Humberston and Waltham is we know that it's somewhere where people want to come and live. And that's something I think we're all proud of, that it's a ward where people want to live, but it does come with problems.
Thank you very much. We'll touch on a submitted question now because it does relate to a housing development that has been going on for some time. Councillor Shepherd, the green belt on Spartho Top, why are we paying full council tax and having to pay management fees on top of this? Councillor Shepherd, I believe you have quite a lot of knowledge of this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, George Thompson, for the question. The council no longer adopt public open space on new housing developments due to the financial pressures associated with ongoing maintenance. As an alternative, completed developments are now managed and maintained by management companies funded by the residents that live in the new developments. The developers engage with the management company, and the amount charged to residents is not determined by the council at all. This arrangement does not apply to highways or footways those that are built to a required standard, and as these become part of the adopted highway network, they fall under control of the local authority. As part of the purchase, when people are purchasing these houses, and the conveyancing that is carried out by their solicitors, the process is explained to them, and they will be advised of any arrangements that are in place for managing public open space. Dissatisfaction with the arrangements is a civil matter between the residents and the management company, and not North East Lincolnshire Council. Martin Vickers MP has raised this issue in Parliament on green development with the Minister and awaits an answer to the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to the live questions. Councillor Jackson, Peter Clark is still pressing on the issue of the relocation of funds to the library. Will Councillor Jackson publish that proof of the permission to reallocate the funds? And should we put in an FOI to central government? I don't see why it would be commercially sensitive as it's public money.
No, it's not. It's not commercially sensitive, and yes, we're more than happy to, as we have done on a number of occasions, publish the reasoning behind why that money was reallocated, from the upper floors of the library, from the Green Skills Hub, potential Green Skills Hub, back into the town centre, and more than happy to publish that again. There's no secrecy about it at all. It was all done through the correct channels and approvals. The relevant government department approved it. The district auditor has also looked into it. If we hadn't done it legally, properly and within the appropriate guidelines, there are a number of different organisations which will be coming after us.
Well said.
Thank you. Councillor Dawkins, I think you want to add.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that really. I mean, it's like it said, the money was allocated for a green skills hub. If you've got nobody that wants a green skills hub, then what do? You don't build it. I mean, that's what's happened before in this town. People have built things and nobody's used them. So in my respect, I think it's, we probably had two choices. One could be, could be allocated somewhere else, and the other one was to return it. So I think, what's happened, I think is perfectly reasonable.
Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, Hayden's made a very good point there, of course. If a local authority does not utilise government grant funding, which we've been provided with, we do have to give the money back unless we get permission to reallocate it to another project. And there are examples up and down the country of local authorities that have failed to use grant monies that they've been given by the government within the necessary timescales and have had to return it. Under my watch as leader of the council, we are going to make maximum use of all the government grant funding that we get. And I don't want to see any of it returned back to the government. We want to be spending it locally to improve the facilities that we are able to offer local people. That's what it was originally provided for. And actually this was grant money provided by a Conservative government as well.
Thank you very much. As I said, we will note all the portfolio holders and leader will get these questions and they will be answered because we are getting quite a lot in now and it's 1952. So we've got one in connection with affordable housing, actually sticking on the housing we had a little while ago. Can you show the proof of so-called affordable housing being built? Because this questioner has yet to see it happen. So I don't know if we've got Councillor Swindon.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm sure that affordable housing is a big topic when it comes to any housing development, and I do believe that locally with any major development, large-scale developments, 500, 600, 700 properties, that sort of thing, there is an allocation is subjected down to affordable housing, and I think it is around about 10% of the actual development is supposed to be allocated for that sort of benefit. So, but I will try and find out some better figures for you prior to this meeting. I will get some more information back to you relevant to affordable housing.
Thank you very much. And while you've got your microphone on, Councillor Swindon, we'll move over to your other portfolio responsibility on Cleethorpes flyover footpath. We've got a question from Helen Rice. Could you please tell me why the footpath under the flyover has never been fixed and reopened? It's a pain to have to walk all the way round, either across the train lines or across the horrible bridge near Tesco. If there's a problem with the train barriers and they're broken, you have to turn around and go back and walk all the way down Freeman Street to go across that bridge on the other side. Please fix it and make my life easier on my way to work.
Yeah, thank you very much, Helen. Thank you very much for your question. I do agree that it has been closed for a considerable length of time now. Just going on back of a little bit of background to that, is that we did get some grant funding from government for repairs to 3 of the bridges over the A180, and I think we've already repaired 2 of them with that money, and the third one is due to be done. But one of the ones was that reeling down to Ryby Square, and the particular bridge that you're talking about. When we did the initial assessment there with the contractor and doing the underneath structure, looking at it, then we found out that that actually bridge or that walkway was very badly corroded and in a bad state of repair. And it was investigated by health and safety executives and found that it is in a position where it was not tenable to let it stay open actually for people to use. It could have caused further problems. But we are going on with that now. We're getting further on now that the other work has finished on some of the bridges. But the design of that particular walkway and the bridge has been completed. We are in the preparation stage now to start the procurement exercise. And as I mentioned earlier with the question on Corporation Road Bridge and the starting there, if we don't do that particular exercise correctly, then we are open to challenge if we've just gone for a straight appointment of a contractor. So we have started work on the procurement, and that should start later this year or early next year, but depending, and the work will start again, pending on the selection of a suitable contractor. So, but we will keep people informed, and there will be regular communications once we've been in touch with the relevant contractor that is to be appointed.
Thank you very much. We've got 5 minutes of regular time left, so I'm going to switch it over to Councillor Cracknell. We've got a question from Kaylee Haggart about special needs provision, schools provision in Grimsby, on how we're going to tackle the issue regarding special needs provision. To stop some children, she's saying young people are in mainstream even when they're deemed not so suitable, or they have to travel a distance to attend specialist provision.
Thank you very much for the question. And of course, the area of special education needs and disability is incredibly important to our community, and the need for that particular provision is something that is very much at the heart of the Directorate. Our policy really is to ensure that children can remain in mainstream provision if able to do so, but also recognising that their additional needs can be satisfied perhaps within the school rather than necessarily being away from the school. So what we've been doing quite recently, those members of the public and councillors who've been to have a look at certain projects, for example at Littlecoats. I was also at Fairfield only a matter of a fortnight ago, looking at what was a redundant building at the side of the school being over the summer holidays, being brought into a provision that will give particular attention to children with special needs. So they will remain in a mainstream environment, but will also have the opportunity to make the most of the educational provision and special requirements that that child may need. We are doing that in several locations and several schools throughout the borough, whilst not detracting from the fact that if children do need very special provision, then of course that will be delivered. But at the heart of what we want to do is to make sure that children within our community, our schools community where they live, are able to be with their friends, their neighbours and so on in local schools where it is possible for them to learn at the speed and the rate at which they need to learn, whilst recognising that those other special needs can be delivered in that same school environment. So we're not separating and segregating. What we want is a very inclusive opportunity for those children. But of course, one size doesn't fit all. But our policy at the moment is very much to increase that provision within school environments and making sure that buildings that perhaps were not being used and have been mothballed can be brought back into use, particularly for that use. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cracknell. We've only got a couple of minutes left, and as I said, these questions will all be answered because we're running out of time, and it's been a very interesting one tonight. We have a good one from Paul Jamie Kidd, which crosses all over actually, so I think several of your Cabinet members might want to come in. What are your thoughts on Agenda 2030 and how it will impact our area? He's saying Agenda 30, also known as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, is a United Nations initiative adopted in 2015. It outlines 17 sustainable development goals designed to address global challenges like poverty, inequality and climate change by the year 2030. So it's quite wide-ranging, and it'd be interesting some of the developments we've got going on here regarding climate change, green energy, poverty, health. I know Councillor Shreve. I don't know if anybody wants to come in on this one.
Well, I'll just come in initially. I mean, of course, a lot of those, I mean, that's a very broad agenda, and of course, a lot of that is directed at government rather than local authorities. And obviously, local authorities have their part to play in that. You know, we are keen to ensure that our local environment is sustainable and to reduce our carbon footprint as much as we possibly can. So, for example, as a local authority, we have a target to be carbon neutral for the local authority and its assets by 2030, and we've got a variety of different projects in place which are helping us to move towards that target. We've also got quite a number of projects in place around wildlife and the green environment, which I'm sure Councillor Henry Hudson will be able to talk a bit more about. And as you rightly say, Michelle, we've got quite a number of initiatives around trying to reduce health inequalities as well, which Stan Shreve will be able to talk about. So I think rather than hog it, I'll let other people come in.
Thank you, Leader. The 2030 plan, as you explained, covers a number of things like poverty, housing, education, health, and all of those things, all of which can be distilled quite simply into a public health challenge. And we're in a place now in North East Lincolnshire where Public Health's day has arrived. We've just taken the decision to become a Marmot town, and what that means, without going into the technicalities of Marmot, that public health will be integrated in everything that we do. So every decision that we make will be considered what are public health implications, what will be the impact of that, and if we can address the housing issues that we've talked about this evening, if we talk about the poor nutrition, and we talk about obesity and all of those things, then the outcomes that we will be achieving will help to move towards the United Nations 2030 plan, which is aimed at governments, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hudson looks like he's
Yes, I'll just add a little bit to that. I mean, we are striving to reduce our carbon footprint, and initially there was a bit of worry that that might cost the taxpayers money, but actually the reverse has happened, and we found that there's a lot of funding out there. So, for example, heating projects, you know, we would have to have renewed certain boilers, but if we go down a carbon neutral route, the government will provide certainly a lot of the funding towards that. So that's sort of an example of where we can save money. A big one that's coming up at the moment, the cremators at the crematorium are due for renewal. Now that was going to cost this authority about £6 million, but we're looking at a scheme where we switch to electric cremators, and the government will provide most of that money. So that's another example of where doing the right thing is actually saving the authority more money rather than costing us money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't know if anybody will... Oh, Councillor Harness?
Yeah, it's just to remind people on the environment, just the actual number of trees, semi-mature trees that we planted in the last 2 years. And I think that's been transformational, I really do. And we haven't just planted them, we've looked after them, we've watered them, we've nurtured them. And I just hope the public, you know, when they go about going past, actually appreciate what we've done for the environment.
Thank you very much. Are we all... Nobody else wants to add? Thank you very much. We're 3 minutes over. We will answer the questions that we haven't answered, and we'll make sure they get to the portfolio holders. Just another thank you from a Jackie Morris, who said, just want to say thank you, councillors of North East Lincolnshire Council, for bringing this to us. It's really great and does wonders for transparency. And just to let everybody know, I'm just going to flick to try and find the date of the next one. Our next Cabinet Live is scheduled for Wednesday, the 8th of October. Which we'll clarify a time, but it will be around 6:30 again, but we will clarify that time and we'll make sure you're all here to answer those questions again. So thank you very much. Good night.